Welcome to the Pandemonium Witches podcast, where the ADHD has just a touch of autism, where the true crime is as scary as the hauntings and unsolved cases. But the hosts never stay on topic for long. I'm Kat.
I'm Rachel.
I'm Em.
And I'm Meg.
Keep your arms, legs, and other extremities in the vehicle at all times, and enjoy the show. That would be the mute button.
I was like, I see your mouth moving, but I don't hear a thing.
I didn't hear anything either, and I had the mute button on. Good morning.
Good morns.
How was your coma?
It was all right. I got up about midnight last night and then was up until probably about 5:45 and then laid back down, take a nap before we started.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's
spent some time out on the couch with Fluffy, which she's
I love your fucking
needing.
Cat. Your cat is so freaking adorable.
I just ordered her a baby carrier wrap so that way I can see if she'll let me put her in it, and she can be more of a center focal point on the podcast.
I mean,
instead of under the desk.
She's something. She's adorable.
So, Mom she was scrolling through Facebook yesterday and found a lady trying to rehome 2 kittens, but the only stipulation was that they had to go together. And I messaged her back and I went, no cats.
No
because
cats.
I'm the only one here. She's at Dad, so unless she's planning on taking them to Dad's with her, no, but there is too much in the next several months. We are getting no new pets, until at least after March.
Right.
No. Because I'm the only one here, and it's already driving Fluffy nuts. The fact that I'm trying to sleep during the day, and she wants to be on the couch cuddling with somebody.
Let me go.
Night before last, she kept stretching up on the side of the bed, kind of patting it. And so I just got off the bed because she can't jump on the bed because she has arthritis in her back legs. And I just picked her up and I put her on the bed with me, regardless of the fact I have stairs right here for her.
What the hell, Fluffy?
She refuses to use them.
Also, I love your shirt.
Oh, thanks.
You're wearing 100% That Witch. I'm wearing Miss Halloween Town today.
I had to dig out, go through the boxes that are stacked in my closet that I still need to unpack to pull out some pants for work because it got really, really cold really fast, for one whole week.
Yeah.
And I was like, I need pants. I cannot wear shorts anymore. And I found a bunch of my Halloween shirts. I was like, oh my God, that's where these went. I knew they were here somewhere.
What's funny is we went, I took my neighbor, because she's super preggo. I took her out to the store the other day, and this lady was like, oh my God, I love your Halloween shirt. And the look of disdain that I gave her, I was like, Halloween?
This is my everyday shirt.
Right. I was like, good God. And then when we went on the fun run, somebody else said, I like your Halloween shirt. I wore the orange one with the lover's card on it. And I just went, I wear this every day. And they were like, oh, that's good. I was like, yeah.
Speaking of run, I heard that we might have gained a new follower.
We gained 2.
Oh, even better.
2. So we're at 77. The Facebook group is at 96, I want to say. So a lot of friends had their friends join, and then I had 2 people on the fun run that joined. But we have 2 new followers to the Spotify. One of them, super, super sweet, hates clowns. So of course we're going to have to do a clown episode for her. Absolutely.
She joins the club on that one.
None of us really like clowns, to be honest. We still have 17 countries going strong. Trying to think. I got mostly everything's done for October.
Awesome. Just got to work on our Thanksgiving episode.
Thanksgiving's done. We just have to record it. I have a special treat for Thanksgiving. Yeah.
But that's what I meant. Like, we just have to record it.
Yes.
And then we focus on Yule, and then we take a break for a couple weeks.
Yes. I mean, we take a break of posting. We're still gonna record
because we got to get, a
couple of months under our belts.
Get a buffer in there, and so that way if something happens, one of us gets sick. I'm going on a cruise, so I'm going to miss an episode.
I'm going to go visit family.
I'm missing 2. Yeah. I'm missing like 2 episodes. Like, it's
totally get it. Totally fine.
Oh yeah. So what do you want to talk about today?
This is a Pandemonium Witches podcast. Trigger warning. The following episode contains graphic violence and gruesome depictions. Listener discretion is advised. Well, I have a topic for next time.
Okay.
Do you have a topic for today?
I do.
Yes.
Let me pull it up. Because while I was waiting, I was pulling stuff up. Where is it at? Scroll down. Scroll down. There it is. So it's not that long of a topic, but it's much older serial killer. So
like older.
Well, I say serial. Like born in 1785, died in 1831.
Holy
older.
Shit! Okay, so we're going in the Wayback Machine.
Yes.
Okay.
To Germany.
Germany.
Bremen and Hanover area.
Can I tell you something funny?
Always.
Okay, so I had a patient who was German. He taught me the best way how to make schnitzel. He said, you don't use pork, you use chicken. I mean, pork schnitzel is great, but... And he told me, he goes, Ich bin ein Berliner, which is the famous quote that JFK said. He called himself a donut, because the way he says it. So normally, if you call yourself a Berliner, it's Berliner, not Berliner. Yeah. So a Berliner is a donut. So Ich bin ein, it means I am. And he called himself a donut. And he goes, did you know that JFK called himself a donut? And I was like, what? And he goes, I teach you very basic German. Berliner is, I am a Berliner. I am a German. Okay. And he goes, Berliner, very fast. Donut.
Love that.
I was like, thanks, John. Appreciate you. The best, best freaking patient. I loved him to death. So.
Oh, man, that's awesome.
Now that we're both donuts.
I mean, we do like donuts.
We do. Shit, please. I love donuts.
Okay, so I know I'm going to mispronounce her name.
Totally fine. We make an effort.
Yes, we do make an effort. It's Gesche Marguerite Gottfried.
Let me see. Why don't you send it to me and I'll read it.
Her maiden name was Tim, but her, of course, she got married.
Yeah. Oh, wrong chat. I was looking at our chat.
It was still open, so that's why I was like, oh, that right there.
Okay. Gesche Marguerite Gottfried.
Yeah. What you said.
Yes.
So she was born March 6, 1785, and died April 21st, 1831. So the TLDR is she was a German serial killer who killed 15 people via arsenic poisoning in Bremen and Hanover between 1813 and 1827. She was the final person to be publicly executed in the city of Bremen.
Arsenic. Why is it always arsenic?
Because it's in rat poison. And it's easy to get. It was easy to get a hold of at the time.
That's true, because it wasn't at pharmacies.
Apothecaries, like, because you could get it easily. Just say, I have issues with rats, and they're like, okay, here you go. They would give them instructions on how to, put it out and everything, and keep it away from children, and that sort of thing. And like, I think they, like, in some places, like in Australia, they had to sign a book for it, but that was in later years. So in the early 1800s, I don't really know if they had to sign a book for it.
Okay.
So she was born into a poor family in Bremen, and she had a twin brother named Johann Tim Jr.
Strong name. Good name.
She was affectionately known as Gesche, which is a Low German form of Jacina.
Okay.
Her father was a tailor. Obviously his name was Johann, because brother was the junior. Right. And her mother was a seamstress, by the same name of Gesche. Of course, the time period, her parents favored the brother.
Right.
Because son, namesake.
Right. Of course.
Her father encouraged her to marry at first opportunity, which happened to be at 21 years of age, and she married Johann Mittenberg, who was a saddler in Bremen.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. I'm surprised that it happened at 21 years, but,
right, because back then, normally, wasn't it like 14, 15, sometimes even 12? That we've seen people married off,
Especially because they were you had a tailor and a seamstress, so, they're living end to end, literally, right. And so I'm surprised, like, they didn't try and get her married off sooner.
I know.
So she and her first husband had 3 children together.
Okay. Well-rounded. 3's a good number.
Yep. Husband's father died, and they inherited money. Cool.
Good for them.
Well, after that, husband Johann's behavior changed, and he developed a drinking and gambling issue because now he had this money.
As they all do. Once you come into money, the addictions start to kind of play out.
Right.
Unfortunately.
Well, in 1813, he told... I call her G in my notes, so...
Sure.
I'm just going to keep it.
Ain't nothing but a G thing.
That they were destitute and all the money was spent because gambling issue and drinking. So basically...
did he lie to her, or did he actually spend that much money on gambling and drinking?
I mean, I never found out exactly how much money he had inherited.
Okay.
So, like, even, like, depending on how bad he was at gambling, like, he could have been throwing money away by the bootful, and...
Instead of the worst witch, he was the worst gambler.
Yes.
Good Lord.
So then a couple of months later, he died of stomach pain.
Right.
So a few months after that, so a couple months after he told G that there was no more money. So a few months after, he died.
Okay.
A few months after that, she met Michael Christoph Gottfried, who was a relatively rich wine merchant, and who she then married.
Of course.
So, second husband. Well, and it was perfectly plausible for her to hurry up and get married because she had 3 young children.
Right, she had to provide for them.
Yeah, so, like, And he didn't leave us with any money. So mourning period be damned. I have to provide something for these children.
And this was in the 1700s, right?
This was 1813, 1814.
So normally during that time, my history is coming. Okay, so
yes.
Normally during that time, not only were women not allowed to work unless they were lower class, and she was considered like middle class because, well,
first husband was a saddler, but her parents, so I mean, that was a little bit of a step up because her father and mother were a tailor and seamstress. So,
right. So that was definitely a step up. So it moved her from like lower middle class to middle class. Still, middle class women didn't work at that time.
Right.
It was very
like
frowned
the only
upon.
work you did was inside the house.
Right. So I mean, like she could do work in the house, like she could manage the books and do the accounting, but you weren't allowed to have work outside. So I mean, if he spent all of that money that he inherited,
she was
done for.
She was fucked.
Right.
Yeah. And so usually like it was a year of hard mourning and then you could go into softer mourning and then it'd be like a year of that and like so like it stretches out. But when you don't have time for that because you have to provide for young children, you get I want to say you get special authorization from the church and to kind of bypass that. So that way she can hurry up and get married again to provide for the children.
Well, a lady's mourning period at that time was typically a year to 5 years. Sometimes it could go longer.
Yeah.
Depending on their area. Like, for instance, people who have seen Bridgerton. Oh, God. She was a feisty one. What's the feisty one's name? You know the one that I'm talking about. The one that talks to Mrs. Bridgerton about her garden. So
yes.
she was in constant mourning. She never had a husband after her husband.
But that's because she also chose to not take a husband after that because she was well off.
Typically, if you want to get a husband, not only do you have to get specific written authorization from the church, you have to get it from the court. If it was...
And she was besties with the queen, so the queen was like, no, you don't want to get married again? We're not going to let that happen.
Right. You don't want to get married? That's fine with me. Go ahead. You can be on permanent mourning. Whereas everybody else, you would have to actually go out and actively find another husband or a suitor.
Right.
This is bananas. Bananas.
So she meets husband number 2.
Okay.
Her mother then dies from stomach pain in May 1815. So all within like 2 years, 2 people have died.
Okay. It's now starting to sound a little suspicious. Oh, no.
Then her own daughters died.
No.
But around that time, a cholera epidemic swept through Germany around 1815, which helped to hide her crimes. So...
Wait,
and not necessarily...
Cholera?
Yeah, cholera. Sorry.
Okay, I was like, Chlora. You mean Clorox?
No.
Cholera. Okay.
Cholera. Yeah, I said it and I just kind of looked at the word and I was like, that was not correct, but I'm going to go with it. So, like, her daughters could have died from the cholera, but it, 1815, you couldn't really tell. Like,
right.
It was, I mean, because they could have gotten sick from the cholera, gotten better, she killed them, or she killed them and then blamed the cholera. Like, it forensics wasn't there.
Yeah, this was at a time where, science was still considered witchcraft.
Yeah, I mean,
unfortunately,
to some people it still is.
Right.
During the epidemic, she greatly helped her town, who then gave her the nickname of the Angel of Bremen.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
In 1826, she sold her house to Johann and Wilhelmina Rumpt, and they asked her to stay as their housekeeper. Wilhelmina proceeds to die.
As she does.
A maid left soon after, stating that the illness and death followed G to the house. Johann Rumpf became ill, but also became suspicious of everything.
Right.
He inspected his food daily and found specks of white powder in it. He then took the specks to the local chemist, Dr. Luce. Dr. Luce determined it to be arsenic and notified the authorities.
Oh, shit!
Yeah.
Okay.
She found out about the authorities being notified and fled to Hanover.
As one does.
Yes. Once there, she started killing again, starting with Mrs. Schmidt and her daughter in May of 1827. In July of 1827, so 2 months later, Frederick Kleen was murdered. G was finally caught by the authorities on March 6, 1828, which ended up being her 43rd birthday. Happy birthday! You're now arrested.
Right. What a great birthday gift. Right? I couldn't think of anything better.
And of course, news of her arrest spread quickly, like it does.
Right.
She ended up confessing to killing 15 people and said she was trying to kill more.
So she actively admitted to trying to kill more.
Mm-hmm.
Good God.
Oh yeah. So the reasonings behind her murderous streak to this day is very unclear and widely debated. But the emotional deprivation that she suffered during her childhood, along with her MO, led to the assumption that she suffered from Munchausen syndrome by proxy.
So she wanted to be like the savior.
Yeah.
And get rid of
because she wanted the attention. Because she never had any of that growing up. It was always her brother. Yeah. So the list of her victims include her parents, her 2 husbands, a fiance, and her children.
No. I'm still very much no, I'm good.
Okay, you kill your parents, you kill the husbands, you kill the fiance. Okay, but why the kids? They were innocent in all of this. I guess that way she could travel easier without them. I don't know. Before being suspected and convicted, she had received widespread sympathy among the people of Bremen. As so many of her friends and family fell ill and died, they said she was a devoted nurse to her victims during their times of suffering.
I don't want her anywhere near me during my time of suffering.
Right.
No.
So she used a rat poison called Mausbutter, which is German for mouse butter, because it would entice the rats to eat it. This rat poison was very common. It had small flakes of arsenic that was mixed with animal fat, so it makes sense. She would mix small doses into her victims' food, and once they started to get sick, she would friendly, selflessly, and resignedly offer to take care of them during their convalescence/illness, while continuing to poison them.
This sounds kind of like that one lady that you covered. Oh, God, what was her name? Not...
in Australia?
Yes! God!
Arsenic! It's the choice!
Arsenic, the drug of choice. What? I don't... Why?
I don't know. So the whole time of her criminal activity, she was considered a model citizen and was even well-liked in her community.
Of course.
Of course she was.
Of course.
Because masks hide everything. With the constant loss of friends and relatives who suffered.
I just had a buffer moment. I thought you said the math hides everything, and I was like, well, of course it was. Math hides everything. No. Nobody understands math. No, mask. Mask! Catherine.
Yes, mask.
Have some coffee. Oh, look, coffee.
She didn't show her true face. She held her cards very close to her chest.
I'm slurping down some coffee over here.
It's a morning. I get it. So, with the constant loss of relatives and friends who suffered, it appeared to the community that poor, friendly, candid, and kind G was chased by a cloud of misfortune. Because she happened to kill all these people right during like the epidemic, and so it just looked like, oh no, these horrible things keep happening to her.
She's the one. Look, everybody can be like, oh my
problem,
god,
it's her.
It's her. She's the problem. It's her. Where's Tay-Tay when you need her? She exists.
So, would you like a list of her victims?
Yes, please.
Okay, so the 1st of October, 1813, she killed her first husband, Mittenberg. May 2nd, 1850.
You're buffering. Poor connection. Conjunction, junction. What's your function? You broke out after the first husband.
Okay, so May 2nd, 1815, she killed her mother.
Yep.
May 10th, she killed one of her daughters. 8 days later, on the 18th of May, she killed her second daughter. 28th of June, 1815, she killed her father. On the 22nd of September, 1815, she killed her son. So now all 3 kids are gone. June 1st, 1816, she killed her brother. She killed him after he unexpectedly returned. He died by eating a dish of shellfish that was flavored with arsenic.
Wait. So she's still killing via food, even though she's been caught.
Yes.
Look. Okay.
No. This is her list of her victims. She didn't get caught until like 1827.
Okay.
Oh, sorry, 1828 was when she got caught.
Okay.
This is timeline.
Got it.
So July 5th, 1817, Michael Christoph Gottfried, her second husband, died.
Mm-hmm.
June 1st, 1823, Paul Thomas Zimmerman, her fiance, died.
Mm-hmm.
March 21st, 1825, Anna Lucia Meerholz, who was a music teacher and a friend, died.
That's actually a very difficult last name to pronounce. I'm very proud of you.
It took me a second.
I can't even pronounce that, so well done. Well done.
December 5th, 1825, Johann Moses, who was a neighbor, friend, and advisor, died. December 22nd, 1826, Wilhelmine Rumpf, in my notes I have her as landlady, but it was the lady, they sold the house to, died. May 13th, 1827, Elise Schmidt, who was daughter of Beta Schmidt, died. 2 days later, her mother died. So Beta Smith died 2 days after her daughter. And then July 24th, 1827, Friedrich Klein, who was a friend and creditor, died in Hanover, because by that point she'd fled. So Johann Rump was supposed to be her 12th victim, but due to him catching on to her, he survived. Yeah. So the doctor that he had taken the flakes to was his physician and had also attended several of the other victims.
Stop.
No. Rump confided in the doctor and handed over the flakes to the authorities.
Mm-hmm.
The doctor figured out it was arsenic, but by this time she'd already killed 2 more people and had left.
She was just like, nah, I'm gonna dip out.
Right? Like, you're getting suspicious, I'm leaving, bye.
Right. It's like, bless you. My goodness. It's like that one lady, that you did. The hat box. With the babies. Yes. Oh, they're getting fishy. I'm just gonna dip on out.
Right. So, she then, went to Hanover, where she then proceeded to work on her last victim, Frederick. So she ended up spending 3 years in prison until her death sentence was carried out. Her death sentence was decapitation, and she was publicly executed on April 21st, 1831. And it was the last public execution in the history of Bremen. Sorry. I went down to scratch my leg, and I was like, there's a bump on my leg. Ingrown hair.
I was going to say, that's fluffy.
No, she left. She's probably found a sunbeam to go lay in. As cats do. So she had a death mask made, and it was used to study the facial patterns of criminal women. This is
what?
This is within the now obsolete field of study of phrenology. So, they have a stone in the cobbles of the cathedral square as a reminder of the public execution of hers. It's in the middle of the Domshof, and it was set into the pavement where she was executed. Apparently, it is also called the Bremen Spitstone because the Bremen citizens used to spit here out of disgust at her crimes.
Why?
I mean, I don't know. So her influences on literature.
I love that. I don't love her. Let me make that clear. I don't love her. I love it when people take
history crimes and turn them into things.
Yes.
So she was the inspiration for, or her crimes were the inspiration for several works of art and literature.
Mm-hmm.
A 2016 art book by Sarah Bodman called "Gift, I Made This for You." Gift is German for poison.
Wow.
Is set up like a pamphlet with 14 recipes for each of her victims. All of the food was cooked and photographed with the same ingredients and in the sequence as the original food that was made for the victims.
That's
kind of cool, but also very dark.
Right.
So another work titled "Gift," apparently this is a common theme.
It's a thing.
Is a 2016 or 2013 graphic novel by Pierre Meter with drawings by Barbara Yelin. It depicts her story and her manner of poisoning her victims. In Murderesses in German Writing, 1720 to 1860, Heroines of Horror, 2009, Suzanne Cord discusses G and other women murderers, as well as how literature portrays these women. I might have to look into that. It'd be interesting.
I mean, it does sound like an interesting observation.
Right?
Yeah, like, I don't like that, but I like that. Does that make...
It's interesting because it is history.
Yes, because I'm a dick for history. I love me some history.
Right. So last one is Bremer Freiheit. Came out in 1971. Was a play by Rainer Werner Fassbinder based on G's crimes. In 1972, Fassbinder shot a TV version of his play starring Margit Cartensen. Lots of German names.
Lots of tongue twisters.
So, like, she wasn't to my standards, she was not the greatest looking person.
Please tell me you have photos. Please tell me you have photos. Please tell me you have photos.
I don't Of course I have
photos. Oh my god. Emily's gonna die.
I was just gonna send it to you privately.
Oh yeah, that's fine. No, Emily's busy today. She's working on that yard. She's been doing real well.
God damn it, paste it. Just save the fucking thing. Sorry.
Wait, we can't do that. Never mind.
Because I just want to copy and paste it over, but it's not letting me. All right.
Oh yeah, in Google Docs you have to do a screenshot. I found that out when we were doing the New Zealand episode. I was like, why is it not moving?
Facts.
Oh, that's a horrible name.
That's fine.
No, I mean, like, I'm looking at the case that I did, like, on the back burner for an extra day.
Uh-huh.
And I'm gonna do it once you're done, because this is...
Okay, well, that's all I had, so I just sent it to you.
Okay, let me... No, that's from Dawn. Speaking of which, Donnie Dawn. Hello, Donnie Dawn.
Love Dawn.
We love Dawn. She left us a loving comment.
Oh, yay! We love comments.
We love comments. Now they do auto post. So, like, it still notifies me when somebody leaves a comment. But, amazing episode from the Winchester episode. Amazing episode. Makes me want to take a road trip to the Winchester Mystery House. Exciting from beginning to end.
Awesome.
We love that. Absolutely. I think I'm waiting
for it. I just sent you my photos.
Okay, I'm just waiting for it to load. Oh, good God. She was not a looker.
She had a nose on her, that's for sure.
I mean, I've known some pretty people, and I know some pretty people. She's definitely... She's...
Low on the list.
You know, she has a face a mother would love.
But apparently not even her mother loved her.
So no! Terrible.
That's not saying a lot.
Sorry. And then the spitting stone, that looks like it was like shined.
Well, so that was also where her execution was.
Oh.
So that's why it became the spitting stone, because that was where she finally met her demise.
Good. Good for her. I love a good old town square murder, you know?
You mean decapitation?
Yeah. We do like the French.
Guillotine!
My friend made guillotine earrings that she sold at the fair.
That.
And she had some lady come up to her and she's like, "That's barbaric." And her daughter went, "It's wizard's chest." And I was like, I love that. You know, because
I love it.
I do that as well. Thanks. I hated it.
You're welcome. I need to get my ears re-pierced, that way I can wear my earrings.
Did you get guillotine earrings?
No, I want to.
Okay.
I have to get my ears re-pierced though, because my battle with my eczema behind my ears, it scarred it so bad that it's all scar tissue back there now, so I can't even... The last time I was able to wear earrings was for your wedding, and that was me shoving them through.
Oh, dear God. Why'd you do that? No, you don't need to do that. Why?
Because it was matching my outfit.
Okay.
I mean, I had also done it a month earlier at the boyfriend's friend's wedding. So it was kind of like, they were still kind of open, so it wasn't as hard, but...
Right.
The scar tissue's bad, so I'm going to have to bite the bullet and pay to get them redone. I've thought about just, like, taking a safety pin and just sticking them through, but I'm just like, no.
Don't do it, Emily.
I have the adult money.
Yeah.
I have the adult money. I want to go get this done professionally.
Right. Like, go and get it. Look, I'm saying don't do it, Emily, because she would do that.
The holes are still halfway there. It's just the back half of the ears is where it's... it's fucked.
So you know my disorder, polycystic lipoma disorder. Everybody who doesn't, it's 1 in 6 billion is cancerous. Hello. Hi. So I have tiny tumors in my ear from my piercing on, I can tell you, hold on, give me 1 second. It's on the left one. And the doctor was like, we can't take it out because it'll grow and double in size.
Right. So if we just leave it be, it stays like it is.
Let me tell you, it is hard because sometimes I'll just be sitting there and fucking with it. Because, you know, you rub your ears when you get anxious. I mean, at least I do.
Yep.
And
oh yeah, 100%, me too. I've lost many pairs of earrings that way because I'll sit there and spin them and fidget with them, and yeah, I've lost earring backs that way.
I mean, so I ended up buying, which I love Shein for this. They had those the bags with the multiple backs, the plastic, the rubber ones, and it's like
the silicone ones, which are not meant for long term.
No, they're not, because they can get attached to your
yes,
to your skin.
Not just attached to your skin, but if you leave them there long enough, your skin will actually grow over them.
Mm-hmm.
Horrifying things you learn from
I know.
Piercers from Piercer TikTok.
So I thought this was going to be a short thing to do. The one that I had researched. It's jokes. I got jokes.
Jokes for days.
Look, I joke about loving the 1950s. I liked the aesthetic. I liked the style. Do not like the mindset. And
no.
The 1800s, the 1700s, I loved the style. I loved the clothes. I loved everything to do with that. Did I like anything else about it? Absolutely not. I hated it. Thanks.
I did too.
I mean, we could do a longer episode today, but I think a lot of our listeners like the 1 hour episodes. I don't know.
I mean, I think the shorter episodes are great when we're doing multiple through the week, like we did for October.
Right. Well, if you're all right with us doing a longer episode today, if you guys want, you can just skip through it, and I don't know. It's up to you. I can do this one, but it's 13 pages.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay.
You know I'm always down.
Oh, I know. So, also in Germany.
Oh boy!
So we're taking
not planned, guys.
We're taking a crazy trip to Deutschland. To the motherland. I am so sorry, my German listeners. I do apologize. My German listeners are German listeners. Jesus Christ.
Jeez, just claim them all.
Oh my God. I don't want to.
I mean, some of them aren't so bad.
I mean, I do have to say, I have a couple of German friends, and they're absolutely hilarious. One of them, her name is Veeb. She lives in New York. She used to live in New York. I think she lives in England now. But it's so funny, when I first met her, she goes, "My name is Veeb," and I was like, "Oh, Vibe?" And she's like, "It's Veeb," and she was very sweet about it, and I loved how simple she was, because she wasn't super crazy about everything,
Yeah.
But I have that picture. I don't. I know how you love pictures. So we're gonna start off. Let me just
hold on. Stop buying plastic skeletons for Halloween. They're terrible for the environment. Locally sourced, all natural skeletons are much more environmentally friendly. They take a bit of prep work, but so worth it. Reuse, repurpose, and recycle.
Reduce, reuse, recycle. Captain Planet.
Sorry, I had to share that.
It's fine.
Okay, Okay, looking at it, I wouldn't assume that was a place that a murders had happened.
Well, just wait.
Well, considering that the underneath it says few days after the murder, and I was just like, well, there it is.
So here's the thing: is that they didn't allow people to traipse around the house.
Oh, good.
So this is one of those.
That for forensics.
Love that for their forensics, mind you. This was the 1920s. So here's the other photo.
I mean, still, that's really good.
It's really good for the 20s. So
much better than the U.S. 20s, where they were just letting them traipse all over.
Look, I don't understand that.
Me either.
So there is a tiny little town north of Munich called Hinterkaifeck.
Okay.
Bless me. Quite a month.
Yes.
So they're too long didn't read. An entire family was bludgeoned to death.
I feel like there was another bludgeoned family
in
the 1920s that we talked about.
There was, but it's a different case.
Yes.
Because yours was in Switzerland or Sweden?
Iowa.
Okay. Well, it was somewhere in the middle of nowhere.
The Basilica farmhouse murders?
Yes. This one is called the Hinterkaifeck Murders. And it was a couple of family members, middle of nowhere. And it was the 1920s.
Interesting.
Okay. So there were some strange occurrences in and around Hinterkaifeck. Sometime shortly before the attack. 6 months prior to the attack, the family maid had actually quit.
Mm-hmm. Almost like she knew.
Maybe. I don't know. Do we?
Either way.
It was widely claimed...
She got the hell out of Dodge really quick.
Real quick. It was widely claimed that her reason for leaving was that she had heard strange sounds in the attic.
I mean, that's good enough reason to be leaving.
Right? It's one of those things where you're like, do I really?
Do I stick around for this? No.
So, she had heard strange sounds in the attic and believed the house to be haunted. Andreas Gruber found a strange newspaper from Munich on the property in March of 22. He'd also found footsteps going to the property but not leaving. And this was during snow.
Yeah, that's sketchy as fuck.
Right. He could not remember buying the newspaper. He could not remember going to the house and then not leaving because his footsteps had come from a different thing. So,
right.
No one in the vicinity subscribed to this newspaper. So, not only did he not buy it, the neighbors didn't buy it, nobody bought it. So, days before the murders, Gruber told neighbors he had discovered tracks in the fresh snow that led from the forest to the house but didn't leave.
Interesting.
And of course, I had to go a little bit behind on the house. It was built in 1863. Mm-hmm. The family was known for keeping to themselves. They had a tiny little homestead.
Yeah.
They had enough to keep themselves.
Right.
So, of course, what time do people get up in the morning to tend to the house?
Usually sunup.
Right.
Is usually when the wife or the man of the house get up, stoke up the fire, start the coffee.
Right.
And then once the fire's going, everybody else gets up.
Right. Well, neighbors grew concerned because none of that happened.
Interesting.
So, of course, March, he brings it to his neighbors, right? April, maybe a couple of days later, April 1st, so April Fool's Day, bad joke. Kazala, their daughter, the youngest, missed school, and the entire family failed to show up to church, where the wife, Victoria, was a member of the choir. So
that's a big flag because
right.
You don't ever miss church unless you're sick.
Right.
And even then, if it's just the sniffles, you still go.
Right. So the entire family was Andreas, who was 63, his wife, Kazilla, 72, their widowed daughter, Victoria, 35, Victoria's children, Kazalia and Josef, and the maid, Maria Baumgartner. Okay?
Interesting.
So,
hit pause for just a second.
Yes. goodness. Oh my goodness. 'Tis merely a flesh wound. Honey. It's only a flesh wound. I'll bite your ankles. Oh man, Monty Python. Oh, that's funny. Freaking love Monty Python.
We finally get Walmart delivery out here, and so I had them deliver the Moby rat.
Yes! That's great.
I'm gonna try it out later with Fluffy, because she's hiding right now.
Why is Fluffy hiding?
She's probably hiding in her box in the dining room area.
Fluffy hides.
Like, she's not intentionally hiding. She has her comfy spots.
As they do, you know?
Yep.
My dog liked to lay underneath my feet. Mm-hmm. So, like, I'd be on the couch and she would, like, scooch underneath my feet. So when I would stand, she would splay out, and so I would always trip over myself. Always. It would never be different. So, as I said, the victims were Andreas, Kazilla, Victoria, and her kids, Kazalia and Josef, and Maria Bowen Gardner, the maid. So, by April 3rd, Kazalia had missed school. And by then, the mail had started to pile up at the post office. Because if they weren't home, they didn't leave it.
Right.
They would just take it back
and
to...
Also, in, like, the rural places, they didn't have post boxes. It was, they knock on the door, hand it to you, you don't answer, they take it back.
Right.
Or they have just a box in the main post office that you then have to check.
I'm just thinking, like, how much mail did they get in the 1920s? Because this was before Publishers Clearinghouse.
I mean, like, it could be, like, notes from neighbors. Like, it could just be, like, random shit. But also, they still got junk mail back then, so.
Right. They were probably trying to sell them Stanley Steamer. So.
Here's Robot catalog.
So, April 4th, the neighbors decided to investigate the farm. Lorenz Schlittenbauer, a farmer who lived nearby, led the search party. Because he was friends with the neighbors, right? He was friends with the entire family. So, the Gruber family was always talking to him and everything like that. He saw them every day. Mm-hmm. So, the murders occurred on the 31st of March. We're currently on the 4th at this point. So, later during the night, they had apparently heard footsteps in the attic, but the main Gruber found no one when he searched the building. Although he told several people about the allegations and observations, he refused offers of help, and the details of these alleged observations went unreported to the police. According to a school friend of Kazila, the young girl reported that her mother, Victoria, had fled the farm that night before the act after a violent quarrel, only hours later to be found in the forest. So,
interesting.
Right. The autopsies. They were conducted by a court physician, Dr. Johann Baptist Aumüller, and he painted a horrifying picture.
I mean, it's hard to not paint a horrifying picture at this point.
Oh no, it gets worse.
Oh, of course it does. It always does.
I've got more. Of course you do. But wait.
I hate it.
There's more. So, the elder Kazalia, which is the mother, 72, she showed signs of strangulation and 7 blows to the head.
Oh, Jesus.
This left her with a cracked skull. So, for those of you who don't know, skulls are really resilient. Except...
I mean, they kind of have to be.
Right. They protect
unless you get it, like, in a right spot.
Right. So, hey, I'm very proud of you for using a nail clipper and not your fingers. That is progress.
This is true.
All right. So the eldest had strangulation, 7 blows to the head with a cracked skull. The face of her husband, Andreas, it was caked with blood, and his cheekbones protruded from his flesh on his face. It had been shredded.
That takes a lot of force to shred the flesh from the bone.
Right. And I'm just sitting here going, good God. So Victoria's skull, their daughter, was also smashed. Her head showed 9, quote, star-shaped wounds.
I hate it.
So there was a type of pasta roller.
Yeah.
German pasta roller, you know the one I'm talking about, that had 9 indents. And it looks like a star. So I'm thinking that's probably what was used.
I mean, it would make sense.
Right.
And that was for, like, the fancy desserts for the pastries. Because otherwise, it's just a long, flat, smooth one, like the one I sent you.
Mm-hmm. I have them. I use them every time I make bread or pastries.
I'm glad.
So, the right side of her face had been hit with a blunt object.
Probably to knock her out or
probably
to get her on the ground.
The younger Cazalia, her lower jaw had been shattered, and her face and neck were covered in gaping circular wounds, which matches the pastry rolling pin that we talked about.
Yeah.
The elder, the grandmother, Andreas and Victoria, likely died instantly from the blows. They're saying it was from a mattock, a pickaxe-like used tool for digging and chopping. The younger Cazalia likely remained alive in shock for several hours after her attack.
That's
and
so sad.
She had ripped her own hair out in clumps because her hair was in her hands. So Friday, March 31st, the new maid, Maria Baumgarter, arrived at the farm. So farms like this typically did have 1 to 2 maids that would help out, and they would help out with like the milking and the collecting of the chicken eggs and stuff like that. Maria's sister had escorted her there and left the farm after a short stay. She was most likely the last person to see the entire family alive.
That's sad.
Yeah. It appears that late in the evening, Victoria Gabriel and her 7-year-old daughter and her parents were lured into the family barn through the stable, because that's where they were murdered. Ew.
And of course, there was no drag marks or anything, so they went in willingly.
Right. So the assailant had ended up using a mattock and killed the family with blows to the head. The perpetrator then moved into the living quarters, where with the same murder weapon, he killed Josef, who was sleeping in the bassinet. And then killed Maria, who was sleeping in her bedchamber.
That's sad.
I didn't like researching this, but
I can see why.
I love baby. So 4 days had passed between the murders and the discovery of the bodies. So April 1st. At this point,
they were smelling rather ripe.
Right. Well, April 1st, which is a day after, Hans Szworski and Edward Szworski were coffee sellers, and they arrived in Hinterkaifeck to take an order. When no one responded to knocks at the door and window, they walked around the yard but found no one. They noticed a gate to the machine house was open and decided to leave. But back at this time, people who were selling door to door, they would stay.
Right.
For a few days in town. So, of course, the youngest, that was at school age, was absent from school without excuse for the next few days. When they didn't show up for Sunday Mass, something was wrong. So,
right. Because missing school, okay,
they're sick, something happened.
Or something's going on with the farm, explainable.
It's all explainable.
Excusable.
Right. After a week, though.
But when, yeah, but sometimes, like, if they're sick and the whole family's sick or something, okay.
Right.
But then the fact that they missed church and nobody's seen them, question starts coming up.
Well, of course they were found in the barn, right?
Mm-hmm.
Except for the two that were inside, the baby and the maid.
Yeah.
The perpetrator had lived with the dead bodies for 3 days.
I hate it.
During this time, they ate the food in the house, fed the animals in the property, and started fires in the home's fireplace.
So it wasn't even like robbery or anything. They just moved in for a short time.
Yep. This is kind of like the Strangers. You ever see that horror movie, The Strangers?
Yes.
Where they lived in the house for like a couple of days and they were like eating the food and This is fucky.
Yeah.
So.
And not the good kind of fuckery either.
No. Mm-hmm. So, local mechanic Albert Hoffner went to Hinterkaifeck on April 4th to repair an engine. Mm-hmm. He stated that he had not seen any of the family and had heard nothing but the sounds of the farm animals and the dog inside the barn. After waiting an hour, he decided to start repair on the engine, which he completed roughly 4.5 hours later.
Yeah, because he probably just, like, excused it off, like, oh, they're off somewhere else.
Doing what they need to do, yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's a big farm.
Yeah, and he's just like, I'm here to do this one thing. I'm going to go ahead and get this done.
And leave, right.
And carry on about with my business.
So, around 3:30, Lorenz Schlittenbauer sent his son Johann and stepson Josef to Hinterkaifeck to see if they could make contact with the family. When they had reported that they had not seen anyone, Schlittenbauer headed to the farm on the same day as Michael Pohl and Jacob Siegel.
Mm-hmm.
My kid just sent me a Snapchat.
Yeah.
Entering the barn, they found the bodies of the entire family, except for the youngest. The inspector was called. George Reingruber and his department investigated the killings. The initial investigations were hampered by the number of people who had come into the crime scene since the first.
Yeah, unknowingly.
Unknowingly, because at this point, nobody knows they're dead, right? So for 3 whole days.
People are just coming and going, like
nothing happened.
Not knowing.
Right.
Unfortunately, it's horrendous because all of the evidence that is now just possibly destroyed between the animals and then...
Also, if you hear me cracking my knuckles,
coming and going.
Right.
Okay.
So,
I just...
Okay, it gets worse.
Of course it does. It always gets worse.
It always gets worse. So, of course, I'm putting a trigger warning at the beginning of this one because, it's a thing. Obviously. So, initial investigations were hampered because of this, even though nobody trampled on it after they got on scene.
Right. But it's the previous
days. They apparently moved bodies, moved items, and cooked and eaten meals in the kitchen. So I'm pretty much thinking that it was the killer who did this.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
And not the townspeople, because if they saw bodies, they wouldn't.
Right, and also they wouldn't have just gone into the house and helped themselves. There's an outside, pump for them to, wash their hands with. Like, there's an outside sink for them to wash their hands with. So they wouldn't have even gone into the house.
Right.
And
normally, farms around this era had outdoor cookeries.
Yeah, right. So, like, if they were going to cook something, they would have built, a small fire or something. But like, also, if they were going to, going out somewhere, they were either going to take sandwiches or like finger foods with them, or rely on the family that they're going to feed them something, because that's usually what they did.
Right.
Oh, you're coming out here to feed us, to, fix something for us here. Let us feed you. Stay for lunch, or if you get there right the first thing in the morning, oh, here's some leftover breakfast kind of thing.
Right. Like, you don't...
Because that's what you did.
Right. You don't go inside the person's house. Like, that's not...
No. like, unless, like, as soon as you get there, then yes, they invite you inside, offer you, something to eat or something to drink, and then, you politely take a cup of coffee or take a cup of tea and, a biscuit or something, and they'll go, oh, okay, eat that, and they go, okay, no, I have to go get started on my work. They're like, okay.
Yeah, like, have a good day. We'll see you later.
Hospitality and politeness. That's
right.
what you do.
Well, here's where it gets worse.
I thought it was already worse.
Nope. It gets worse. It gets worser. So Johann Baptist Müller, we talked about him, the town physician. He performed the autopsies in the barn, which was normal at that time. Where the bodies were, right. He performed an autopsy there.
Well, and it also, otherwise having to transport them into town.
Right.
You could lose
vital things.
Things could happen.
Yes. So
but at the same time, that just further contaminates the crime scene.
It was established at that point that the person who did this did in fact use the mattock, which was one of the farm tools. Okay.
Yeah.
So it was confirmed at that point, and the evidence showed that younger. I was doing that motion earlier with Monopoly. I was like, oh. So she had been alive for several hours, if not a day, after the assault. The fact that she had torn her hair out and it was in her hands and in the straw showed that she was dealing with the pain.
By pulling out her hair.
So the bodies of the victim were then sent to Munich for further, or not bodies, the skulls were sent to Munich for further examination so that way they could see the compression fractions. So not only were they found in the barn, they were stacked on top of each other. That is very difficult to do. I don't know if you've... Listen, I had to do this for work. I had to lift a dead body. It was not fun. 10 out of 10 do not recommend. Have somebody else do it for you. Anyways, so... So, the first suspecting the motive...
I mean, I would plan to.
So, first, people suspected the motive to be robbery. Of course. Right? The police interrogated the traveling craftsmen, the coffee salesmen, the vagrants, people who would just come in and out of town. They abandoned that theory when a large amount of money was found within the house, along with jewelry and goods. After that point, it was clear that the assailant had remained on the farm for several days, cooking and feeding the cattle and feeding the goats and the chickens and just going about his usual day-to-day life if he was a farmer.
Which is really weird.
He consumed the entire supply of bread from the kitchen and had recently cut meat from their pantry. I don't know if you know about this, but salted meat is very difficult to cut.
Oh, yeah. Because it's very dense.
It is very dense. So, like, prosciutto and stuff like that, people be like, oh, yeah, you can just... No, you can't just cut it. There's
a reason why they use slicers to slice those things, guys.
Right.
They use specialty knives.
That kind of stuff terrifies me worse than a mandolin.
Right.
You know how much I fear mandolins.
I know.
It's because of my fingertips, but that is neither here nor there. So, with no clear motive from the crime scene, the police began to formulate a list of suspects. Despite repeated arrests, no murder has ever been found, and the files were closed in 1955 and considered a cold case. The last interrogations took place in 1986 before Detective Chief Superintendent Konrad Müller retired. So the inspection of record of court commission, it was noted that the victims were probably drawn to the barn by restlessness in the stable resulting from noise of the animals because there were no other footprints to be found in the snow.
Right.
A later attempt, however, revealed that at least human screams from the barn could not be heard from the living area. So the fact
that they had to test that out, though.
Mm-hmm. sick. I hate stuff like this. Like, it just makes my blood boil.
Me too.
So, of course, we had to cover it. On the night after the crime, 3 days before the bodies were discovered, the artisan Michael Plockl happened to pass by Hinterkaifeck, and he observed that the oven had been heated by someone. That person had approached him with a lantern and blinded him, whereupon he hastily continued on his way. So this was someone he saw on the property, saw that a fire was being stoked outside.
And just went, no, not my business.
Right. So he also noticed that the smoke from the fireplace had a revolting smell. The incident was not followed up, and no investigation was conducted to determine what has been burnt in the oven that night. Because you and I both know if it would have been investigated,
they would have found the killer.
But of course, as most things do, it wasn't.
No, of course not.
So on April 1st at 3 a.m., the day after, a farmer and butcher, Simon Reibladler, on his way home, I'm so sorry if I butchered that, near Brunnen, saw two mysterious figures at the edge of the forest. When the stranger saw him, they turned around so that their faces could not be seen. Later, when he heard of the murders in Hinterkaifeck, he thought it possible that these two strangers might be involved. And in the middle...
It's quite possible.
Right. In the middle of May 1927, 5 years later, a stranger was said to have stopped a resident of Weidenhofen at midnight, asking him questions about the murder, before shouting that he was the murderer, running into the woods. The stranger was never identified or found. Would you like to know about the list of suspects?
Yes.
So, Karl Gabriel was the husband of widowed Victoria Gabriel. He had reportedly been killed December of 1914 during the First World War by a shell attack in France, but his body was never recovered. After the murders, the people began to speculate whether he had in fact died in the war, and Victoria had conceived and given birth to her son Joseph in the husband's absence. The boy was rumored to have been a product of incestuous relationship between Victoria and her father Andras, which was documented in court and known by the village. I told you it got worse.
What the fuck?
Do you want me to go back and reread it?
No.
I told you it got worse. I did warn you.
I know, but I didn't think it was going to be incest worse.
Yeah.
That kind of warning would have been nice.
Hey, look, I didn't get any warning reading this. You're not getting any warning when I do it. So,
rude.
After the end of the Second World War, war captives from Schrobenhausen region, who were released prematurely from Soviet captivity, claimed that they had been sent home by a German-speaking Soviet officer who had claimed to be the Hinterkaifeck murderer. A lot of people saying that they were the murderer, huh?
Yeah, because like, why would you go around bragging about this shit?
I don't know. A lot of people were crazy back then.
That'd be dumb.
So, then, the officers who were released took back their statements.
Of course they did, because they went, oh shit, maybe we shouldn't be bragging about this shit.
Right. So, of course, many theorized that the Soviet officer in question might have been Karl Gabriel, because those who claimed to have seen Gabriel after his reported death testified that he wanted to go to Russia. Which I only want to go to Russia or over there to go meet Dora. I haven't heard from her in a few days. I reached out, but I hope
didn't realize she was in Russia.
She's not. She's Transylvania.
Yeah, I was like, I don't think she's in Russia, but okay.
No, I'm just lumping it all together because if I go to one place, I'm going to go to them all. So, boop, boop. So, shortly after the death of his first wife in 1918, Lorenz Schlittenbauer was believed to have had a relationship with Victoria Gabriel and fathered Joseph. So there's a lot of people coming out of the woodworks to have said to have fathered the young Joseph.
Right.
He became under suspicion by locals early in the investigation because he's several suspicious actions immediately after the discovery
yeah.
of the bodies. So, of course, the bodies were discovered and he was acting all sorts of shifty.
Obviously.
I mean, to be honest, I would be too if somebody had found my other half. Right?
Right.
So, Schlittenbauer and his friends arrived to investigate. They had to break a gate to enter the barn because all the doors were locked.
I mean,
from the
that means
inside.
somebody had. I was about to say, because that means somebody had to have locked the door from the inside.
Right. So, however, immediately after finding the 4 bodies in the barn, Schlittenbauer apparently unlocked a front door with a key of the house and entered the house alone. A key to the house had apparently gone missing several days before the murders, though it was possible that Schlittenbauer, as a neighbor or as Victoria's potential lover, might have been given a key.
I mean, that would make sense.
Right. But when asked by his companions why he had gone into the house alone, when it was unclear if the murderer might still be in there, Schlittenbauer allegedly stated that he would look for his son, Josef. Thus potentially compromising the investigation.
My good sir, your answers are not...
My good bitch.
are not making sense.
The math ain't mathin' here, buddy.
Right.
So, it was known that Schlittenbauer had disturbed the bodies at the scene, thus compromising the investigation. So he's one of the first people that moved the bodies, aside from the killer. For many years after, local suspicion remained on him because of the strange comments that he had made, which were seen as indicating knowledge of details that only the killer would know.
I mean, that makes sense.
I would have to agree with that. Like, my dude, why are you going around telling people this? Only the killer would know. Right? So, according to his information in the files for the case, local teacher Hans Blager discovered...
All the Hanses.
I know. Discovered Schlittenbauer visiting the remains of the demolished Hinterkaifeck in 1925. So, of course, what are you eating, baby?
Nothing.
Joshua, what are you eating?
Talking over an animal. What do you have? Nothing. Runs away. Runs away, chewing as fast as possible.
He's eating Smarties. Honey, I'm going to make food when we're done. Do you not want to wait?
Apparently not.
It's a snack. That would be me. I am the snack. Snack that smiles back. So, upon being asked while he was there at the farm, because it was demolished a few years later, he stated that the perpetrator's attempt to bury the family's remains in the barn had been hindered by frozen ground. This was seen as evidence that he had intimate knowledge of the conditions of the ground at the time of the murders. Although being a neighbor... My eyes just did that blinky thing. Although being a neighbor and familiar with the local land, he may have been making an educated guess. Because that sounds about right.
I mean, yeah, because it's that time of year the ground hasn't fully thawed yet.
Right. I mean, I would have said that too if I was a farmer in that area. Like, yeah, the ground is too fucking frozen. Seriously. You don't have to be a freaking scientist for that. So...
I mean, apparently you do, though.
Apparently. So, after speculation that he was the one who murdered the family after Victoria demanded financial support for the baby. Before his death in 1941, he conducted and won several civil claims for slander against people who described him as, quote, the murderer of Hinterkaifeck.
Interesting.
Which, good for him for going to civil claims court and winning, you know?
Yes.
There were
but also, why were they saying these things if they weren't true, though?
Right. But there were a few more suspects that looked a little bit more sketchy than him.
Okay.
So, the next we have is Adolf Gump. That's not a good name. It's not a good name, guy. He was listed as...
He didn't know at the time. It was still early.
It was still early. He didn't know. So he was listed as a suspect on early April, on the 9th, due to his connections to the Friedkorps Oberland. As a Freikorps member, Gump was said to have participated in the murder of 9 farmers in Upper Silesia during the fight against the 1921 Polish uprising.
Okay.
Excuse me. Well, I'm talking a lot.
It's okay.
He had warrant for his arrest issued by the District Court of Opel. That's a pretty name. Opel.
It is.
In 1951, prosecutor I can read. Investigated brothers Adolf and Anton Gump about the murders at Hinterkaifeck. Their sister, Crescentia Mayer, claimed on her deathbed that Adolf and Anton had committed the murders. Now, remember when we had talked earlier about the 2 strangers that were found?
Yeah.
By not just one passerby, but like multiple, right?
Yeah.
So, as a result, Anton Gump was remanded to police custody, but Adolf had already died in 1944.
I mean,
as you do.
Makes sense, because age.
After a short time, however, Anton was dismissed again, and in 1954, the case against him was finally discontinued because he could not be proven to have participated in the crime.
I mean, kind of makes sense.
Kind of makes sense. Well, in 1971, a woman named Therese T. wrote a letter citing an event in her youth. At the age of 12, she witnessed her mother receiving a visit from a mother of the brothers Carl and Andreas S. The woman claimed that her sons from Sattelberg were the 2 murderers of Hinterkaifeck. It's always 2. It's always the number 2.
Always.
The mother said Andreas regretted the loss of his penknife in the course of the conversation. In fact, I am so sorry. My apologies. In fact, when the farm was demolished in 1923, a pocket knife, or a penknife, was indeed found and could not be designated to anyone. I don't know about you, but that sounds a little fishy to me.
Little sus.
Little sus. However, the knife could have belonged to anyone. Here I am trying to skip over my words. This track was followed without result. Peter Weber was the named suspect by Josef Betz. The 2 worked together in the winter of 1919 and 1920. So that's a good stretch of time, you know. They were laborers.
Yeah, definitely.
And they shared a room. So of course, you know, if you're a day laborer and you share a room with somebody, they're going to know everything about you. So, according to Betz, Weber spoke of a remote farm in Hinterkaifeck. He knew that only one old couple lived there with their daughter and her 2 children. It was likely that he knew about the incest between Gruber and his daughter, because apparently everybody in town did. Betz testified in a hearing that Weber had suggested to killing the old man to get the family's money. When Betz did not respond to the offer, Weber stopped talking about it.
I mean, makes sense.
Right, but I mean, why would you... I don't know, people are weird.
Indeed.
I mean, I also have that on my list, which is the confession killer.
Mm-hmm.
A guy who had, like, admitted to killing, like, 100 people, but had only killed like 1 or something like that. I don't know.
Because he wanted the fame or something of the rest of the kills.
Yeah. So I was like, good God. Why? So...
People be weird.
The former maid, Kresnens Rieger...
The one that left before the murders?
Yes. Worked from November 1920 to about September of 1921 at Hinterkaifeck. They suspected the brothers Anton and Karl Bichler to have committed the murders. Okay?
Interesting.
So Anton helped with the potato harvest at Hinterkaifeck before, and therefore knew the entire farm. Rieger said Bichler talked to her often about Gruber
That
and
last name.
I know. Bichler. I would love to have that last name. I like my last name because perish the thought. So they talked to her often about the Gruber and Gabriel family, and Anton reportedly suggested that the family ought to be dead. The maid also emphasized in her interrogation about the farm dog who barked at everyone, but never barked at Anton. Now, we talked earlier about...
Which means that he's been around enough that the dog is used to him and doesn't see him as an intruder.
Well, and we talked earlier about how there was no loud noises or anything coming from the house, but even if there was screaming, you wouldn't have heard it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So, in addition, she reported was speaking with a stranger through her window at night. The maid believed that it was Karl Bichler and the brother of Anton. She thought that Anton and Karl could have committed the murder together with George Seigel, who worked at Hinterkaifeck and knew of the family fortune. Supposedly, Seigel had broken into the home in November of 1920 and stolen a number of items. He denied it, though.
Interesting. Of course, because that's, that's what you do.
Right. He did state that he carved the handle of the murder weapon when he was working at Hinterkaifeck, and he knew the tool and would have kept it in the barn in the passage, which is, in between the home and the barn. It's this little airway. So we got 2 more suspects. So these are all the suspects that were listed in the investigation.
Holy shit.
So there was a lot of people because nobody wanted to kill this family. There was no reason why. I mean, aside from the incest. Good God. Why? This isn't Alabama. Anyways.
Your family tree is not a wreath. But apparently it was because there was an incest child.
Ding, 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 ding.
Ding, 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 ding.
So the Thaler brothers.
Sorry. I couldn't resist.
My brain went off. I'm sorry.
You thought it, I just vocalized it.
So the Thaler brothers were the second to last suspects. They were suspected, according to a statement by the former maid, Miss Rieger. The brothers had already committed several burglaries in the area before the crime was committed. Rieger said that Joseph stood at her window at night and asked her questions about the family, but she did not answer. In that conversation, Joseph claimed to know which family member was sleeping in which room and stated that they had a lot of money. During their conversation, Rieger noted that there was another person nearby. According to her statement, Joseph Thaler and a stranger had looked at the machine house and turned their eyes upward. Blondie's moving into her apartment today.
Oh boy!
Let's just love that for her. We're recording this a month ahead of time, by the way, guys. So by the time you're listening to this, Blondie, Magic 8 Ball is so proud of you. So
I love that you're Magic 8 Ball.
Listen, a lot of people call me Magic 8 Ball. She's not the only one, so I just find it kind of funny.
I mean, that's valid.
I didn't want to open that. So, of course, the last 2 were the brothers, right? Last 2 suspects. There was a book written about it. And there was another alleged suspect discussed, but he was never properly interviewed. So, Bill James wrote a book, The Man from the Train. He alleged that a man known as Paul Mueller, a German migrant, may have been responsible for the murders. Mueller was the only suspect in the 1898 murder of a Massachusetts family, and James believed Mueller killed dozens of victims based on research in American newspaper archives. The Hinterkaifeck murders bear some similarities to the Mueller suspected crimes in the United States, including the slaughter of an entire family in their isolated home, which I'm covering later. So, he used the blunt edge of a farm tool as a weapon, a pickaxe, and moving and stacking the bodies of a victim and the apparent absence of robbery as a motive. So he stacked the bodies like a pyramid.
Interesting.
Largest to smallest. So James suspected that Mueller, described as a German immigrant in contemporary media, might have departed from the U.S. for his homeland by 1912, after private investigators and journalists began to notice and publicize patterns of the family murders across state lines. So, you ready for a little bit of fact and fiction?
Yes.
Less than a year after the murder investigation, the farm was completely demolished. And the additional evidence...
Well, yeah, because nobody wants to live there now.
Right. Additional evidence was revealed by the demolition, including a mattock hidden in the attic, say that 20 times fast, and a penknife found in the hay in the barn, underneath where the bodies were.
Interesting.
In 2006, German author Andrea Maria Schnikel, I apologize if I mispronounce it, published the novel Tanned, a fictionalized account of the murders, although the setting and the names of those involved were changed. The novel sold over 1 million copies and adapted into a film in 2009 and has been translated into 20 languages.
Interesting.
In 2007, 15 students from the German Police Academy, I am not going to pronounce that because I know I will butcher the crap out of this. I want to try it, though.
Okay.
Policia Fashion Show in Fürstenfeldbruck. If I didn't pronounce that right, please tell me. Examine this case using modern criminal investigation techniques. In their final report, of course in German, they confirmed the meticulousness of the investigation at the time, but criticized the lack of professional forensics. In particular, the failure to take fingerprints, which was common practice at the time.
Interesting.
Although it is most certain that the murderer or murderers can no longer be identified, all authors of the report independently agreed on who the main suspect of the case was. However, his name was not mentioned out of consideration for his descendants. Completely understand. So we talked about The Man from the Train. That was published in 2017. And he only briefly discusses the murders of Hinterkaifeck. The authors explain the possibility that German crimes may have been committed by Mueller. And they said that he could have committed the Visalia axe murders, although apparently random nighttime home invasions in or near small railroad towns left entire families bludgeoned to death with a blunt end of an axe, and probably motivated by sick, sadistic, and necrophilic attraction to teenage girls.
The fuck?
This was not the only murder that had that same MO.
Let me just go gag.
Yeah, I apologize. Authors rate the chance of Mueller as the killer as more or less a toss-up, but conclude there's no real reason to believe that it's not him. So, of course, the murders have been subject to a lot of TV shows, one of them being the Amazon TV series Lore. They've also been used on a couple of Forensic Files episode and Unsolved Mysteries. The murders are considered one of the most gruesome and puzzling unsolved crimes in German history, and the case remains unsolved to this day.
Of course, by now all the DNA has disappeared in the wind, and it will always remain unsolved, which is really sad for the family.
I know, and it's like, if you have one person that you think could have possibly done the murders, but what I think is Mueller couldn't have possibly done it because how did he get from over there, from here in the United States to over there in the 1900s with not a lot of money?
Right. I mean, unless he did like Leo DiCaprio did in Titanic and
won it.
won the boat ticket in a game round of gambling.
Oh my god, I know. I did not like researching this topic.
I did not enjoy hearing about it.
There are some very gruesome photos.
Of course there are. I do not want to see them.
I took them just in case. I didn't take them.
I'm good.
I didn't take them. I didn't travel back in time and take them, guys.
If you did, that you know, fantastic.
I'm good. But like reading it, I was kind of like not just disgusted, but like here. This one's not.
I don't want to see it.
No. It's not the bodies. So the caskets were so small.
Well, I mean,
and then the type of axe is not like the typical axe that we think of with like.
They weren't very tall people, so I mean,
you know,
of course. I mean, but that's the type of axe that they would use when the ground was frozen and they were still trying to get the plants in,
right,
or the seeds in, so that way they can break up the hard dirt.
I do have to say, when it comes to like history and German history, they're very much like, this has happened, we don't like it, but this has happened. They're not like, when it comes to America, which we'll discuss on our next episode, about hiding stuff.
Yeah.
And that is the Hinterkaifeck Murders.
Thanks, I hated every second of it.
Me too! Great, I'm glad that we had that arrangement. We both did something that was terribly fucked.
I mean, but mine was definitely a little less fuckery.
That's true. Mine was pretty fucked.
Yeah.
As always, we hope you guys have had a good holiday and have a good holiday coming up. Fuck the colonizers. Also, turkey contains tryptophan. That's why every time you eat turkey, you get sleepy.
And there's more in dark meat than there is in the light meat.
Yep. That's why my brother
That's
always...
why it's darker.
That's why my brother always takes a nap after he eats turkey.
Yes.
Stay feral.
Bite the hand, guys. Especially the white colonizer's hand.
And we'll see you guys next time.
Okay, bye!
Next time on the Pandemonium Witches. Of course, because when we're airing this episode, it is sort of the worst holiday of the year, but also the best holiday of the year. So, instead of doing just regular colonization, I'm doing a specific story about colonization that has to do with missing persons. Yeah, most definitely.
Because he couldn't keep shit in his pants.
He couldn't.
It was fucking animals.
He was! So, the fate of the colonists still remain a mystery to this day, but there are several theories. The first one is the one that was published in all of our history books, which was later constituted as a lie, was that they were killed or abducted by natives.